Hi, this is Samnabhati, and today we have with us Paul Jill. You are VP of Product Management at VMware.
Hi, Swapnil. Yeah, that's right. I help out with the product management for our Cloud Native Applications business unit at VMware.
Today at the keynote, there are some announcements were made. One was about Tanzu.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What is it? And I am also interested in the name.
Okay. All right. So first off, I've got to tell you, it's actually pronounced Tanzu. All right, not Tanzu, but Tanzu. And Tanzu is a portfolio of products and services that are really aimed at helping our customers to build, run, and manage modern applications on Kubernetes. And so we're really excited about this. You can think of it as a framework in some ways with the build, run, and manage, and we have different products and services that will be slotted in each one of these boxes. But you're asking about the name, so where does the name come from? So Tanzu is actually Swahili for branches. All right, so think of supportive branches of a tree, and so we're going to go ahead and use this framework to help our customers, again, to build, run, and manage their modern applications. And so you may have also heard that we have done some recent acquisitions, and a very significant one that was announced last Thursday was Pivotal. And so we've acquired Pivotal, and Pivotal figures prominently in the build box of the Tanzu framework. And Pivotal has recently announced Pivotal Cloud Foundry 3.0, which really modularizes Cloud Foundry and so breaks it into a number of different services. And some of those services are the Pivotal Build Service, the Pivotal Application Service, the Pivotal Function Service. Of course, there's a Spring Runtime as well. And all of those are designed to help developers to build their cloud native stack, their modern application stack. And so that, along with our recent Bitnami acquisition, which provides developers with a very rich and extensive catalog of containerized applications to pull from, and an ISV program that we have, an ISV partner program that we have, that really rounds out the build part of the Tanzu framework. And then beneath that, we have the run part of the framework. And in the run part of the framework, we of course have VMware PKS, which is our jointly developed Kubernetes project with Pivotal. And then in addition to that, we have a new project that was just announced today by Pat during the keynote at VMworld called Project Pacific. And what Project Pacific is about is taking Kubernetes and embedding it deeply within vSphere, so actually within the control plane of vSphere. And we're so committed at VMware to Kubernetes that we're taking it and we're embedding it into our flagship product. And so that really sets the run foundation of Tanzu. And then there's the manage piece of Tanzu. And the manage piece, we also have a newly announced product called Tanzu Mission Control. And Tanzu Mission Control allows you to have a cloud-based management plane for all your Kubernetes clusters. And so we really believe in a future for Kubernetes that is both multi-cluster and multi-cloud. And we believe that in this multi-cluster, multi-cloud world, you'll need a single point of control and management for all your Kubernetes environments. And so with Tanzu Mission Control, we bring in some great functionality, things like basics like identity and access management, policy, very important. So we have this hierarchical policy structure that we can cascade policy down to individual clusters and groups of clusters. And then in addition to that, we have other functionality such as conformance checking. And so we can make sure that your clusters are actually deployed in a way that is consistent with your security best practices, for example. And then we have the capability to go ahead and backup, restore, and migrate applications as well. And if you think about this, this is something that I'm personally really excited about, the ability to migrate applications from one environment to another environment. And if you think about Kubernetes, that really is the promise of Kubernetes, to provide this application portability and be able to move an application from one environment to another environment without refactoring it. And so with leveraging an open source product that we're helping to drive called Valero, this enables the migration of applications from one environment, one cluster to another environment, and even across clouds.
So if I look at it, basically Tanzu, all the acquisition that you have made within the last 1 year, all the way from Heptio to Bitnami to Pivotal, so it's more or less like consolidating them and kind of productizing them more or less?
Yeah, so I think what it reflects really is a well thought out plan in terms of how we bring all the different pieces that we require together. And some of those, as you point out, are through acquisition, but others are actually through native development within VMware. And for that, I'll point to Project Pacific, right? And so that was specifically integrating Kubernetes into vSphere, quite a significant project and probably the most fundamental change to vSphere in the last decade. And so there's certainly this organic effort in terms of building out this framework. But then there's other things in terms of acquisitions. And so as you mentioned, Heptio factors into that, Pivotal factors into that, Bitnami factors into it as well. Right. And so we are very committed to Kubernetes. We believe that it's vitally important to our future and vitally important to the future of modern applications. And so we're making very significant investments. In fact, pointing to another example of how we're contributing and investing organically, VMware was the number 3 contributor to Kubernetes last year, and we're continuing to invest, and we expect to be number 3 or better in the current year. And so we really are investing quite heavily in Kubernetes.
And I think you now have 2 co-founders of Kubernetes, right?
We do. And so with the Heptio acquisition, we welcomed on board Joe Beda, who was at the keynote today, one of the key presenters in the keynote, and then also Craig McLuckie, who both, of course, left Google to found Heptio, and so came to us through the Heptio acquisition.
When I looked at VMware's journey itself, traditionally I would not see VMware as a open source company, but now, you guys are doing a lot of work, in the open source space, which is actually good to see, which also shows, I was talking to Dirk earlier, which shows, the way things are changing.
Yeah. That's great to hear that. And as you know, Dirk leads our open source initiatives at VMware. And we have really gotten open source religion. I can say that, and it's nice to hear that people are seeing that, recognizing that. We are extensively contributing to open source projects. Kubernetes obviously is a major one. We recently donated Harbor, our container registry, to the CNCF, and that's gained tremendous momentum since becoming part of the CNCF. And we're continuing to invest in terms of contributions, driving specific projects. I'm generally involved, but focusing on specific projects like Cluster API, which is something that we feel is going to be very important in Kubernetes in terms of managing the life cycle of Kubernetes clusters. And so that's something that we're particularly committed to.
Let's go back to Tanzu. I hope I said it right, Tanzu.
Tanzu, you got it. Yeah. You nailed it.
Who are you targeting with Tanzu?
So that's a really good question. So we are targeting with Tanzu both infrastructure teams as well as development teams and lines of business. And really, if you think about it, Kubernetes is a thing that really starts to bring infrastructure teams and development teams together. Because for developers, it really is that platform. It's a development platform for modern applications. And really, Kubernetes is starting to become the top layer of infrastructure. And so it really is, on one boundary of Kubernetes, you have developers, and on another boundary of Kubernetes, you have infrastructure. And so, we're investing quite heavily in terms of the build stack and providing a number of different options for developers in terms of how they would build their applications on Kubernetes, right? As well as integrating Kubernetes deeply into infrastructure. And so we're really excited about it. We think it's a nice opportunity to bring teams together with Tanzu.
Another buzzword that we keep hearing these days is service mesh. So what is VMware doing in that space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have NSX Service Mesh, which is our offering in that space. And NSX Service Mesh will be coupled very tightly with Tanzu. And so with Tanzu, we'll be able to integrate in existing offerings like Cloud Health, like Wavefront, and then NSX Service Mesh. So
if you look at Tanzu, what in the whole product portfolio of VMware, where does it fit in? Where does it stand in the whole breadth and width of the?
Yeah. I think Tanzu really brings together a number of elements within
exactly, yeah.
within
It's
VMware.
touching everything.
Yeah, it really does, because if you think about it, as a container management platform in the run layer, right, you really need to have integration with storage, you need to have integration with networking. We're driving with Project Pacific, the integration with vSphere itself, right? So it really does touch everything at the infrastructure layer. And then building on top of Kubernetes, we're providing that developer stack on top of it through Pivotal, through our application catalog with Bitnami, and then also with a pretty rich ISV partner program to help developers build and run applications. And then on the management piece, we're obviously integrating with things like I mentioned, Cloud Health, and a number of other products there, and as well as our management products, right? And so it really does touch all parts of it, and that's one of the things that makes it both really exciting and really powerful.
Do you think we touched upon all the core pieces of Tanzu, or?
Yeah, I mean, so of course, there will be new announcements that come out in upcoming, months and quarters.
And acquisitions? Because
potentially acquisitions. I can't talk about any of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are investing very heavily in Kubernetes. Tanzu really is this product of, a portfolio of products and services that's going to help customers build modern applications on Kubernetes. And so you can think of this as really, everything that our customers need to build on top of Kubernetes, we're going to provide with Tanzu.
I mean, as you said rightly, that Kubernetes is like becoming a very critical part of everything that VMware is doing. But if you look at Kubernetes, this has been very new technology. So how do you see the evolution of Kubernetes itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. And of course, we never know what the future may hold. But it's becoming pretty clear that Kubernetes is moving from something that was principally developer-driven to be much more operational focused, right? And so we're seeing Kubernetes move from development environments to production environments more and more being hardened, right? And that's one of the key things that we're helping to drive with Kubernetes is the hardening of Kubernetes such that you can deploy it in a really reliable, repeatable way. And count on Kubernetes for your production needs. And so that's where I see Kubernetes continuing to evolve and grow and become more operationalized, really kind of be this hardened infrastructure that's bedrock for applications.
So Paul, thank you once again for talking to me today. And actually, I look forward to talking to you again because, a lot of things are happening and VMware is becoming a critical piece of the discussion. Yeah. And of course, we may see each other again at the Cloud Foundry Summit.
Well, Swapnil, always great to spend time with you. And yeah, it's an exciting time. Things are evolving very rapidly. It's a very dynamic world. And look forward to catching up with you again and touching base on the latest and greatest.
Awesome. Thank you.